Welcome back to part 3 of my Docker and Django video. And in this part, we're gonna examine what happens when I'm making a new migration. Why am I doing this? Because I know it will not be ideal. So for the sake of it, I'm just editing the ticket model here, and I'm just like, who created this? I'm just editing the verbose name of this thingy here. And let's see what happens if I say, well, I would usually say Python manage py make migrations if I wasn't within a Docker container. Within a Docker container, I'm saying Docker compose run Python manage py make migrations, and that will work. Well, it should work. There we go. It just created a migration, and the migration is in tickets migration 002. And that will be this one here. So what's wrong with this migration? I mean, everything looks fine, right? What is wrong with this is that it is not quite right. Let's examine it in detail. If we go into the app, tickets, migrations folder, and let's do a listing, and you will see this migration, this very migration here, is owned by root. Now, this is usually not a problem on your dev PC because you have root access, right? So you could just edit it, but let's just try it here. And it's like, oh, well, it has a read-only status. I want to clear it. I cannot clear it, and what to do? Oh, well, that sucks. Oh, well, I mean, we could just delete it, right? Jip. No, we cannot. This is really, really annoying. I mean, if this is happening once or twice for a small project, okay, go figure, you don't need to fix it. If you're implementing a huge project, if you're working with 20 developers, I don't know how many developers, you will end up having an issue. So what you will do is you probably will do like sudo change owner to whatever user you are for this new migration, right? And you would have to do that every time. I mean, look at it now, it's correct, yeah. This is I don't know, this is going to be time consuming, to say at least. And to fix that, well, what is the core problem? We would have to check. What did we do? We called docker compose run Python, and if we go into that container with a bash, we will be root. So I am root, and I think uid, no, is it ID? ID will print the ID of my own user, which is 0. And that means we're logged in as root, like you could imagine already, yeah? So what happens with our volumes that we mounted, like this one, we will write things as root to that volume. So we kind of just did a privilege escalation with the Docker container. We got full root access to one of our directories that we didn't get before. In other words, don't use Docker in an environment where you don't trust the user. Okay, enough about security. Let's fix this problem. First of all, we will have to examine our Docker container. Our Docker container right now does not have an entry point script. We were gonna create that. I'm gonna call it entry point sh. And this is just a normal bash script. We will have to copy it, although, so we're gonna have to say copy docker python entry pointers h to entry pointers h. And what we're gonna do here, we're gonna say our entry point script is entry point sh. Okay, now let's just look into this entry point script. What is it doing? In an ideal world, you would just write Python manage py run server, like the one we did here, 0008000, and you would be fine with it. One little thing, although, you would have to do this. You would have to say exec here. So Exec basically means, well, whatever my script was doing, I'm done, and I'm passing the focus, I'm passing the context of the main executing program on to whatever this one is doing. And let's just try that. I love waiting for Docker. Okay, there we go. Docker compose build, because we just copy this entry point and this needs to be within the build, right? And it's installing the requirements again. It's doing all the whole thing again because it's been a while and it probably just figured out that things are outdated. I don't know. It's just doing its thing again. And we're done. And if I do a Docker compose up now, no, we've just failed. Oh, well, permission denied. We are still on a Linux-based system here, so if I copy a shell script, I will have to give it the execute permission. There's no way around that. So we're gonna build. And we're gonna up. And I guess it's up to try if things are running. Yes, things are running and we're getting a log output. Perfect. Part 1 completed. Part 2. What if, hypothetically, we want to execute a command, then, well, like you would think this entry point script would be overwritten. No, this entry point script is always called. So if I do docker compose run python bash, I should not get a bash. In fact, it's running the server. Like, it's ignoring my command, and that's a very well-known feature. So what is going on? We would have to say this thing, like, don't run that, but run that. Just gonna do like this, echo running command, this one. Okay, this I have to rebuild it again, obviously, and also I would have to specify the command I want to run in my docker compose YAML, because this command is now passed on to the entry point script, and the entry point script, apparently this is wrong. Maybe it's like this. And the entry point script needs to, oh, it's still wrong. Is it entry point? I guess it is called entry point. Yeah. Anyway, this command is being passed to the entry point script, which is taking it in this parameter, $* or $*. And so if I do docker compose up now, we should get a running system. Run? No. I guess we screwed up, but let's see if we can bash into the container. No. Apparently we cannot. I need to double check what is going on here. Docker compose cmd. Oh, go away, Google. I thought it's command, but maybe it's comment? It's comment, apparently. Okay. I cannot just write entry point. I believe if I write entry point, I'm actually overriding the entry point script rather than overriding the command I want to run. So let's stop the container. We don't have to rebuild the container because this is a change in the Docker compose file and not the Docker file. Okay. It does now say running command empty and it's exiting with code 0. That's okay. This could still be a syntax error. Maybe it does need the quotes. No. Okay, apparently I suck at remembering things, but that is fine. I will figure that out in a second. We're back. I just figured out what the mistake was. We have to put those brackets in here. Apparently that is responsible for like a proper calling of the entry point script, similar to what we had with the command call before. Now it's telling us running command run server, and we should get the page loading. Yeah, we do. Good. All right. Now double check what is happening when we do docker compose run python bash. We're into a bash console and we are still root. We're not really that far from what we just used to have, but we've just added some boilerplate, so to say. Now, how do we fix this problem? Well, there's one easy way. I'm just gonna Python bash myself into that again. Let's examine what the actual folder that we're in looks like. That folder, as you can see, the folder above it, the parent directory, is owned by root. But that very folder that we're in, that's the folder app that we have mounted as a volume. And that is owned by the user with the UID 1000, and the group has also access to it. Now, why is it 1000? Why is it not my name? Well, we are within a Docker container, which does not know anything about the users of our host system. Thankfully, it doesn't do that because it just doesn't have to know it. But we can use this information, like we can use this information that we're running with this user, and we can just say, hey, you know what, this Python manage py command that we're executing here, execute it as this user and with that group. And for that thing, I have prepared a script because it's a quite technical thing, and I don't know it out of my head. But I'm gonna walk you through it step by step, and it's also gonna be in the Git repository for you to use. Basically, we have to check who owns the working directory that we're in. This is the current working directory. Next thing, we would have to specify a UID, a username, and a group. Basically, this is what we're doing here. This way that we define it here gives you the option to override it in your Docker Compose environment or in your Docker environment. So if you ever say like, you know what, screw that, I don't need that whole thing. I want to have it with this UID and that username and that group name, then you can override it. So it's just some configuration if you want, but you don't need to override it if you don't want to. Then we're checking if the current Docker container that we're running, because it has a storage, right? It's just not always saved, but sometimes in Docker you end up reusing a container and then you want that thing saved. We're checking if the user already exists. So we're checking the etc passwd file if the user with the UID is already in there. Now, if the user is already in there, we need to modify that user by using user mod for that user and resetting the ID, and also making sure that user is in the right group. Or else, if the user doesn't exist already, we need to create it, and that's being done with the user add command. Also, we're creating a home folder for that user just for the case that certain things, certain programs might need it. All right, let's also exit and quit that. Before we go into the stuff about executing the command, we're just gonna check what this thing is doing, if this thing is actually working and doing what it should be doing. So we're gonna build the container, we're gonna up the container, and we're gonna run a bash in that container to see if the user has been created, and try out some things if you can switch to the user using the sudo or su command. So let's bash into our system. We're still root. We haven't changed anything how the command is executed. That's totally okay. But there should be a home folder. And there is a home folder. However, this home folder is still owned by root, which I'm not quite sure why. It shouldn't, but okay. That's fine. It should have said that it is creating running Yeah, something definitely went wrong. It says create user, user add group user does not exist. Oh, I did not create the group for that user. I will have to do that in the, yeah, I have to create a group, I guess. That's fine. Anyway, it should allow me to just switch to that user. No, I didn't create a user, I guess. I guess I forgot to create a group. That's just something you can do in here, but you can also do within the entry point script. But I'm just gonna look it up now. This is some Debian, so I'm just gonna look up the Debian command on how to create a group, and whatever page I'm ending up on, it should tell me. So user add, password user add, creating groups, group add. Oh, come on. Thank you for advertisement and scrolling. So we're just gonna call group add, I guess, and we're just gonna create this group. We should be able to do it here. Group add user. Is that it? Just group add? Okay. We are root, so we don't need to do sudo. Okay, I'm building the container. And upping the container. Hopefully it works now. We'll see in a second. Okay, it does say it's creating the user. I'm not getting an error message, so let's bash into here and verify. There we go. It does now say the /home/user folder is owned by the user and the group user. Feel free to create other group names, etc. Oh, by the way, we should have used the Python run group here, like this. We will fix it with the next compiling. What we want to check out now is what happens if we go to this as a user and we type the ID command, and there we go. It does say that this user has the ID 1000 and it's in the group 1000. So this would be the same thing that you have within your app folder. And just to verify that this is doing what we want it to do, I'm just gonna go into the app tickets folder. There we go. This is our app tickets folder. So that's this one. I'm just gonna do this touch test.txt, and this should create a new file. I think it just appeared, test.txt, that we can edit. I just saved it. So verified. I'm just gonna print it here. There we go. So we do now have the capabilities. We have a user within our Docker container that has the same UID and the same group ID than the user on the outside. So that's what we want. And now we only need to fix this thing in here. So essentially, I just did what we have to do. We need to use the su command to change the user, and I've prepared the whole syntax in here. It's a little bit more than that. We need to export the home folder properly. This is kind of like better be safe than sorry. And this is the command that we would execute. Hold on. There we go. So instead of executing this one, I'm just gonna leave it so you can compare. We're gonna execute the super user command, and we are gonna preserve the environment. This is kind of for the home folder and for other options that we're getting in here. We're gonna switch to the Python run user, and we're gonna execute a command within the bin bash so that we're using the bash. And the command we're executing with -c is $. So that would be this one. And actually, that is it. So if I go and do docker compose build and docker compose up, the Python managed py server should run as a user. Let's wait for Docker to finish. Oh, it crashed. Okay, time to examine, I guess. Why does it crash when we do that? I honestly don't know. I'm just gonna see what happens here. It does tell some error messages, but it does log me in as the user. And what we want to run is this command, python manage py run server. Why does this not work? It does work when I do it manually. So something must be wrong when I pass the command to the inside. Let's just see what happens when I do it like this. It does seem to not pass the parameters. Yeah, it does seem to be not passing in the proper parameters. I really don't know why. I can only imagine that it has to do with the way I have my bash configured in this certain environment. It could be that I need to do it like this, but I'm really just trying out what's happening now. Nevertheless, like there's another way of debugging it. I could just copy paste the command and see what is going on if I don't do it like this, but I'm hoping that this will work. At least it doesn't crash. Let's see. Okay, the ticket system is up and running. I guess this is better. Like I said, I will provide the script in my Git repo after like I finish editing my video. And let's just examine what happens now if we call python manage py make migrations. Now this obviously will not do anything right now because we don't have any changes, right? Okay, I'm gonna delete this test.txt file and I'm gonna delete the migration that has been automatically created. Now, if I call make migrations, everything works well, we should get the migration again. And we should now have the proper rights. I'm here in the terminal within my project. And there we go, this migration is now owned by me. Look, it's owned by my username and my user group. And if we try to examine what is going on by using bash within our Docker container, and we're gonna ls the tickets migrations folder, we're gonna see this is owned by user. Now let's make this bigger. So you see the difference in here. It has the same timestamps other than my local, which is in German in here, and English with UTC, but it has the same timestamp, it has the same name, it has a different username, but the users have the same UID, which is the only thing that counts on a Linux file system. Alright, that is it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. As I said, I will provide a link to the source code within the video description down below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and if you have any questions, like, feel free to ask them, suggest me some other ideas for videos, and I guess see you soon. Bye bye.